Hi, I'm Mike Sarlo, and I am an instructor at Dallas College here in the computer science area. And this is a kind of a primer or a small little C++ boot camp. Now, who is this for? If you are a developer or you've been writing in C++ for a few years, this is not for you. If you're an engineering student that is taking a C++ course for the first time, this is going to be very helpful. If you're a computer science person or a software dev student and you have a C++ course and you've never written in C++ before, this will be a good primer for you. It'll just help you out and get things going, give you some syntax, some vocabulary. Right now, after this small introduction, I don't want to waste too much time. We're going to get an IDE set up, and that's called an integrated development environment. And in order for us to write our code, our C++, and do some of these things that you're going to need to do in class, you are going to need an IDE. I'm going to show you how to set up Visual Studio, and I'm going to do it on a PC. If you're on a Mac, you can use Visual Studio. They have a version for Macs. It's kind of wonky. You could also do Visual Studio Code. That takes a little bit more getting used to. If you're very new to programming, that might not be your environment. You can use JetBrains. That's a IDE company that has a IDE called Sea Lion. But Sea Lion is a trial basis, so you might have to buy that if Dallas College doesn't have a relationship with JetBrains. They might if you have a Dallas College account. But we're going to do Visual Studio because if you're on a PC, you're going to use Visual Studio quite a bit. Game development, Unity uses Visual Studio, Unreal Engine uses C++, Visual Studio uses C#. But I'm going to show you how to get Visual Studio set up. So we're going to bounce over to the screen, we're going to download it, and we'll explain what's going on with Visual Studio. And I'll show you another compiler you can use if you get stuck on something and you're like, I can't get anything to run. I'll show you an online compiler that I use called REPL. Okay, so again, thanks for coming to this thing. Watch it through. It'll be a big help. It'll get you started. So when you go to class, you'll feel a sense of accomplishment, and you'll feel like you're ready and prepared to take on this coding challenge that is C++. Because it's not all that bad. It's just words. Here we are. How do I find Visual Studio, the one I want to use? So just search Visual Studio Community, and it comes up with Visual Studio Community download latest E. So this is where you're going to go. You're going to download this. You're going to come over here. This is Visual Studio Community. There's Visual Studio Pro, which you can get. Enterprise. Those are pay-to-play one. But here you're going to download your Visual Studio Community, and that's the start of it. So go ahead. Let's download that, and we'll go through the importance of setup and all the stuff that we have done. And there's some cool things in Visual Studio. You can do your own little tutorials here. It's use C++ in Visual Studio. It's a great little start, a primer on how to get around the IDE. That could be a whole course in itself, but we're just going to get set up. So here I'm going to click on my exe to get started. You can see things are going to pop up. Windows is strict. So it loads, it asks, do I want to make changes? Hit yes. And then your installer is going to show up. Okay, before you get started, let it set up whatever it wants to. Just hit continue, it's Microsoft. It does this. While this is installing, I'm going to show you another compiler. This is an online compiler. This is called Replit, replit.com. You make a free account. There you can make whatever you want. The last three things I've been writing in is C++, Python, and Java. But again, if you're really interested in coding, REPL is a great place to just try out languages. Just an online compiler for you to use. You pick your template, you give it a name, and then you create your REPL. And then it's all set up. So this is an online compiler. All depends on your instructor. I do this for things that I do in data structures and algorithms because I can just share a link with my students. But we'll probably be working in Visual Studio more so uh, in your class. All right. Once you've got your installer, and then this is the Visual Studio installer after everything's down, it's going to ask you a few questions, and this is important to do. This way you're going to get everything that you need to do. If you're going into computer science software development, go ahead and give yourself a Python development kit. Scroll down, you're going to see these different things. You have your .NET. I would go ahead and add .NET. And then this right here, this is really important. Desktop development with C++. Okay, you need this. This is going to input our libraries for us to do this. Now we can go back and do this later, but it just takes time. If you're a Unity person or going into game development, go ahead and grab Unity and game development with C++. You can do that with Unreal Engine, DirectX. But really what we're looking for right here, the biggest thing for our C++ is this desktop development with C++. You can grab this universal Windows platform development that gives you C# if you want to do C# forms and things like that, but we're going to focus directly on C++. Anything that you click is going to add all these different things. Now leave these alone for right now, unless your instructor wants something very specific. We're just learning C++, so just development with C++. Go ahead and hit install while downloading, hit install, and this is going to take a while. Go get some coffee. I'll come back after all the download operation is done, but there's no reason to watch it. Just go get a cup of coffee, go grab a bagel. I don't know. Whatever you like, just go get and let it install. Okay, so I'll see you when this is done. So we got a reboot and our Visual Studio is installed, and we launched our Visual Studio, and it comes up with this screen right here. I've got some other programs that I've written that are in a repository. They pop up. But where I want you to start is I want you to start to create a new project. Okay, so click on create a new project, and then it's going to bring us to the templates. And this is important for you to look at. Yours will probably launch off in all languages, but what we want to do is we want to be specific, easier to find. So go ahead and change your all languages to C++. And then I want you to pick run code in window terminal prints hello world by default. This is just going to test our install and make sure that we're all set. So go ahead and click on that one. Don't do an empty project. Your instructor might move you to building an empty projects. That's kind of their thing. But we're just making sure that we're able to develop, make sure that we have all of our libraries and everything's ready to go. So we hit next. We're going to give it a name. Hello me. And you can change your location. If you want to create a folder on your desktop with your course number and your topics or your assignments, that's completely up to you. Okay, store it wherever you want. This is just by default that goes to sources and repos. That's just because I have different things installed on this machine. So Visual Studio, just all my stuff goes in that spot. I hit create, give it a name, the proper name, call it hello or something, or first or something, just so that you can find it. And here we are. Okay, if this is what your screen looks like, we're in really good shape. So congratulations on that. We got an environment set up. I want to go over a couple things really quick before we go with just being done with this first initial part. And really all we want to do is get a IDE set up so you have an environment to write your code in. So these green things right here, those are comments. The backslashes, anything after the 2 backslashes are comments. We'll talk about block commenting later in shortcuts. This is your first program. It has a main. It has a cout, which is character out that's going to stream. It's going to put hello world on the console. I added this prints hello world as a comment to it just because. But what I really want you to look at, I want you to make sure that you have a Solution Explorer. Always have your Solution Explorer up. It's going to save you a bunch of time when we start adding more files. So always have your Solution Explorer up. If your Solution Explorer is not there, go to View, okay, and then click on Solution Explorer so it shows up. Also, go get a GitHub account. We'll talk about that too in class. These are your, here's your debugger button, your green triangle. Here's your build button, start without debugging, and this is your hot reload button. We'll see these more in action when we get going. Depending on what your instructor wants you to do, some build without debugging. I usually build with debugging, especially on snippets. And what it'll do is it'll run down here. It'll give your output, your build information. And once it's done, it'll print hello world. So this is our console. If you get any of these green buttons and get this console to show up with hello world, you successfully installed your IDE and we're ready to start programming. So congratulations, great job. Jump into the next video. Ideally, it won't be as choppy as this one. I'll get some things fixed. Okay, I'll see you on the next video. We'll actually do some programming. We'll build a couple things and it'll be fun.